In the top stories, Prime Minister Harris meets with food truck vendors. St. Lucians go to the polls, and COVID infections soar in Asia-Pacific region. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today's Monday, July 26, 2021. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, plans to create dedicated spaces for vendors continued on Monday morning with a meeting between food truck vendors and Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. According to information out of government headquarters, the meeting held at the Prime Minister's office was described as frank and open, and participants included food truck vendors who operate in Basse-Terre. According to reports, the operators were updated on the work being done to prepare the new location at North Independence Square Street, where food truck operators will be housed. ZIZ understands that the vendors were reportedly pleased with the staging of the forum, which gave them an opportunity to air their concerns and views, as well as to present their ideas and suggestions regarding the development of their small businesses and the food vendor industry. The refurbished space near the square is expected to be able to house 6 food trucks and a central eating area. It's part of overall efforts to get food vendors off the streets and into dedicated spaces around the country. The local leg of the Caribbean Health Campaign, St. Kitts Nevis or SKN Moves, is gearing up to celebrate its second year of making the public aware of NCDs or non-communicable diseases and encouraging movement through exercise routines. The celebration will begin in August and will run for approximately a month and a half, with activities including the commemoratory Health Walk on August 7, Community in Your Kitchen from August 15 to 21, the Water Challenge, and the observance of Caribbean Wellness Week from September 12 to 17. SKN Moves is spearheaded by the Ministry of Health. Its goal is to create a healthy lifestyle culture centered on healthy eating practices, regular physical activity, and regular health checks and screenings. As the country is now operating under a more relaxed curfew beginning today, Medical Chief of Staff at the Joseph N. France General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, is reminding the public to not drop your guard. In an interview with ZIZ News on Sunday, Dr. Wilkinson said the virus is still among us and persons need to remain vigilant. He added that the relaxed curfew doesn't mean that persons should drop their guard.
This is not a signal that the battle is over. It's a signal that as we have a greater proportion of the population vaccinated, we can absorb more risk. However, you can decrease the risk of the virus spreading within the community by abiding by the non-pharmaceutical measures that we have repeated so often, and making sure that if you can be vaccinated, you go out and get vaccinated. So please don't look at the increase in the curfew period as a time for you to go out and drop your guard, but for you to continue to maintain your vigilance.
He said the responsibility lies with everyone to do everything possible to protect the most vulnerable members of society, such as the elderly and persons with compromised health. We now move to news on the regional scene. St. Lucians are going to the polls today to choose a new government in an election that some political observers say is too close to call and could even result in a possible coalition. The director of the Barbados-based Caribbean Development Research Services, or CADRES, Peter Wickham, said, quote, "It's going to be close and both sides have an opportunity to drive home a victory in relation to this election," end quote. Political leaders of the island's 2 main parties, Alan Chastanet of the United Workers' Party and Philip J. Pierre of the St. Lucia Labour Party, both gave national addresses on Sunday night as last impressions to the electorate before Election Day. A long line of voters came out at the Corinth Secondary School in Gros-Islet. The school is the polling station for the Marisul, Bois d'Orange, Labrelotte, Bonaire, Troya, East Winds, Shock Estate, Corinth Estate and Riverstone communities, out of which almost 4,000 voters are registered. Voters said that while the line was long, it was moving along for the most part. An assistant poll worker shared that the polling station started promptly at 6:30 a.m. and that there was a steady stream of voters since opening. We now move on to Jamaica, where there's been an uptick in COVID-19 cases in recent weeks. That's according to Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton speaking at the weekly COVID-19 press briefing on Thursday. The minister says the latest statistics show a 13.8% increase. More in this CVM Live News report.
According to Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, there has been an uptick in COVID-19 cases in recent weeks. Speaking at the weekly COVID-19 press briefing Thursday, the minister says the latest statistics show a 13.8% increase.
This links to dates of onset in the last 2 weeks, and hospitalization, unfortunately, is also suggesting or indicating an uptick. The last 7 days, we have gone from 199 daily hospitalization to 251.
Dr. Tufton notes that this turn the nation is taking is not good. The minister also refutes claims that the Delta variant is on the island. However, he says given the full access to the borders, the presence of the variant is a possibility.
While there's no confirmatory test, I am prepared to say that we should assume that the variant is here. And I'm prepared to say that because the probability of it being here is probably greater than it not being here based on the border access and the travel restriction removal, including coming from countries where the Delta variant is now the dominant variant, the UK.
And regarding vaccine supplies?
Those conversations are continuing. And we anticipate in the week to come that we will be able to give some more specifics around dates and quantities and so on. And so we do expect in a new week those arrangements to be concretized. I don't want to give specifics, but he spoke to it, so I'm agreeing that those discussions are taking place.
Javin McLean, CVM Live.
Internationally, the Delta variant of coronavirus is now spreading rapidly through the Asia-Pacific region. The remote island nations that had remained isolated for much of last year are seeing COVID-19 cases rise. The Pacific island nation of Fiji has seen a significant rise in daily cases in the past week to more than 1,000 a day and a rising death toll. Al Jazeera's Tony Cheng reports.
Grieving relatives watch as the body of their mother's removed from a hospital in Fiji. The cause, COVID-19. The Pacific nation has seen a significant rise in daily cases in the past week to more than 1,000 a day and a rising death toll. The COVID-19 Delta variant is now widespread in Fiji, even though 70% of the population has received one vaccine shot and there's widespread cooperation with the vaccination rollout.
For the benefit of everyone else, and it's to safeguard your family and friends and neighbors.
The neighbors are some of the most remote islands in the world. Many of the Pacific nations have been under strict lockdown for the past year, and in some cases recorded zero domestic transmission of COVID-19. But the Delta variant has changed all that, and it's clear the only way out are vaccines.
That's the only way. I don't think we have any other option than try to vaccinate anyone we can, of course, subject to what is safe. I don't really think there is any other way for us to get out of this crisis.
In Vanuatu, the vaccine rollout has just begun. Quite a challenge in a nation of 83 separate islands. As part of the global COVAX vaccination initiative, Vanuatu has now received several shipments. But with cases rising in the region, many are worried that won't be enough.
40,000 doses, and it's not even enough for the whole population of Vanuatu. So we still need more vaccines.
In mainland Southeast Asia, there was a feeling that the worst of the pandemic was past. Here in Thailand, they only had 61 COVID-19 deaths in the whole of 2020. Now, there are more than that every single day. Vietnam was touted as another COVID-19 success. Strict controls had kept early cases isolated and transmission well under control. Now the Vietnamese authorities are seeing thousands of new cases every day. A third of the country is under lockdown conditions, and despite talks to produce vaccines domestically, at this stage, less than 0.5% of the population has been fully vaccinated. Tony Cheng, Al Jazeera.
Russia has sent more than 80 tons of humanitarian aid to Cuba after the Caribbean nation was rocked by anti-government protests 2 weeks ago. It's the latest donation sent to Latin America, a region hit particularly hard by the pandemic. Rival superpowers, the United States and China, have also been sending vaccines and authorizing the production of vaccines in the region. The U.S. is playing catch-up in vaccine diplomacy after the former Trump administration's perceived snub of the region. Al Jazeera's Daniel Schwimler reports.
The 88-ton donation from Russia contained food and medical supplies to help a nation hit hard by the pandemic. Cuba has seen its tourist industry collapse. The help from Moscow will be warmly welcomed, a reminder of the decades of support it gave Cuba until the collapse of the Soviet Union 30 years ago. So too will these supplies donated by Cubans living in the United States.
We have a lot of needs when it comes to health, medicine, medical equipment, supplies in general.
Russia has been active elsewhere in Latin America, its Sputnik vaccine one of the most widely used in a region where vaccine supplies have been sparse and sporadic.
Unfortunately, across Latin America and the Caribbean, only 15% of people have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19, and several countries like Honduras and Haiti have yet to reach even 1%.
To help rectify that imbalance, Russia is also authorizing the production of its vaccines in countries like Argentina, while Chile has signed a deal with the Chinese company Sinovac to make their product in the northern city of Antofagasta.
If this plant is built, it would allow us to distribute vaccines all over Latin America.
With perhaps more to come, and not just for the duration of the pandemic.
So we are really looking forward to the long-term collaboration in this country.
The Russian and Chinese authorities were quick to deliver millions of doses as the United States, while Donald Trump was president, appeared unwilling or unready to supply them. President Biden has, since he came to office, tried to make up for lost time. Last week, millions of doses of the US Moderna vaccine were donated to Argentina, Peru, Brazil and Colombia. This week, the US sent a further 1.5 million vaccines to Honduras under the COVAX scheme, set up to ensure COVID relief reaches less well-off countries. Most here in Latin America don't much care where their vaccines come from. They just want a safe, effective jab and an end to the COVID-19 nightmare. However, Russia, China and the United States are all aware that in a region in which they've all long courted influence, many will remember who was there when they needed help. Daniel Schwimler, Al Jazeera, Buenos Aires.
And now for the weather. Present weather is cloudy and hazy. Winds are a moderate breeze of 15 miles per hour from the east-northeast. The temperature is 31 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves of 3 to 5 feet. Weather today is partly sunny and hazy with a 20% or slight chance of showers. Tonight will be partly cloudy and hazy with a 20% or slight chance of showers. Sunset today will be at 6:46 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow at 5:48 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.